Welcome to Objections with Stan Willis. I remain not Stan Willis. This is Stan Willis next to me. For those people that are listening, it's going to be super confusing. Stan, how are you?
I'm just fine. I'm still in mourning, though.
You're Alonzo mourning?
No, I'm in mourning.
From what?
General Alicio Francisco Franco is still dead.
For all
Doctors report no change.
For all of our listeners or watchers that are 90 years old, you'll get that reference from Saturday Night Live. Dan Aykroyd. So I have a question for you. We had your buddy in here who really tanked the show by being funny. That we were talking about. Actually, you think he's watching the show or listening to it?
Who, Jason?
Yeah.
He probably is. You want to give him a shout out?
Jason, piss off.
Mike's jealous. He can't
also,
be funny.
Reeve and Kendall are probably watching this, and I would say, make sure you got your work done, boys, or you're getting fired. I think it's easier to do that. Like, Kendra was like, how do I motivate them? I'm like, I could come in and yell at them and throw things. And she goes, I don't think you can. I go, well, I don't technically work there, so I can do whatever I want. That's assault by a stranger. I do want to talk about assaulting something, political careers. I have a question for you. With all the planes that are falling out of the sky and the trains that are exploding, it made me think of, do you think that the Biden White House said, here's the people that could challenge in 2024 and beyond? Do you think that they pulled them in and said, Kamala, you're going to handle it's Kamala, isn't it? I always think of the wrestler, Kamala. It's going to be the wrestler, Kamala. R.I.P. You're going to handle the border, and this is going to be a mess. Pete, you're going to handle planes, trains, and automobiles. I think that was strategically done so that Biden could run again, and he could literally point and go, well, look at the border. It's overrun. Well, whose fault is that? The vice president. So that he could absolve himself of any of these things like, hey, I brought in the brightest minds, and they couldn't get it done. That's my opinion.
So you're saying that Joe Biden is such a savvy politician. He was able to appoint completely incompetent people to every single cabinet position.
No. I'm pretty sure that his cabinet was picked the same way Obama's cabinet was picked by the banks. The bankers picked who they wanted when Obama was in office, and you can match that up with the donations they made to him.
I don't really think many bankers want the people. The thing about the current cabinet is that most of the folks that are in the cabinet are just incompetent. It's not even that it's kind of like, we're not going to put somebody in here who's going to intentionally screw it up. We're just going to put somebody in here who we know will screw it up because they're so stupid that they're going to make these decisions that are going to be incompetent.
But those decisions are going to get hung on them, and that's why I think it's intentional.
Well, absolutely. I mean, putting Kamala in charge of the border was strictly a way to keep Kamala from running for president.
But that's what I mean. I think you're putting a neck around someo's neck,
a neck around somebody's noose.
You're noosing.
By the way,
their neck.
Did you see something the other day that who announced that they were running for president? I saw
that Kennedy.
Bobby Kennedy Jr. announced that he was going to run for president.
If I was a Kennedy,
Party. I think I might actually vote for him.
I would be wearing a full knight's suit of armor if I announced for that, and I'd never take it off because they never get to the actual podium after JFK.
Well, Ted did.
But how far did he get? All they had to say is, my favorite joke ever, Dennis Miller. If he's such a gentleman, why did it take him 18 hours to open a girl's car door? Okay. The Kennedys. Now, I'm not saying.
That's cold. That's heartless and cold.
It's a 90s joke. I brought it back. Use it at a party. I'm excited about that opportunity, but again,
I'm just happy that there's someone who, in my opinion, is a decent candidate running for president.
Okay,
because I think Robert Kennedy is. I think he's from a purely political standpoint. I think he's a middle of the road kind of guy. I don't think he's going to go too far right or left on anything. He's got the same kind of philosophy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something cool.
He's got the same kind of philosophies of government that his dad and his Uncle Johnny had. And
they aired them out, didn't they?
Well, they kind of took care. But funny
that he's not anti-gun. Go on.
But I think that I think that his camp. I mean, we'll see. I'll get a lot of flack from people who are on the extreme conservative side because of some of his social stances. I'm sure, but I think it's nice to have a guy like that running for president.
I think it's nice to have somebody that you can't go, God, what a scumbag yet. Because something will come out. So let me ask you this.
There will be something. There's always something.
So let me ask you this. I'm going to just name people, and you tell me, are they part of the system? Are they anti-system? As much as you can be when you're in politics. Okay. So you said Kennedy. Is Trump part of the system? Or is he a symptom of the system?
He's both. Trump's kind of a conundrum because he says things that make him sound like a populist. Being a populist would make him outside the system. But he's either not a savvy politician or he's not really outside of the system, because if you looked at the people that he appointed in his cabinet, all of them were heavy, big-time insiders.
Well, so, it's like I'm going to start an expansion franchise, and I'm going to bring in everybody that played for the Yankees, and then you go, why are they playing like the Yankees? Mm-hmm. What the fuck?
Right. It's yeah. That's kind of what he did, and so it's hard to say that he's an insider because everybody inside hates him,
right?
But it's also hard to say that he's an outsider because I mean, his policies were not that radical, right? He had the 4 or 5 things that he yelled about during the debates and everything, like the wall and everything, but he didn't really accomplish much with those. But beyond that, his policies in office weren't all that radical.
They were more favorable economically for rich people.
Right.
But in that case, when the rich are doing well, typically you have a middle class because it does trickle down.
To an extent, yeah.
I don't mean you go from making 32 to 60.
I think the rich are doing well now, and it's just stomping on the middle class.
But I think it's a different way you're going about it because, again, you take the COVID year, and you crush anybody that was an entrepreneur, had a small business or whatever. The elites were still – I was trying to explain this to somebody the other day. If you had $50,000 sitting in your bank account and Apple stock just tanks, you know it's coming back, so you can put that money in. Over 7 to 10 years, you're going to get your money back. Mm-hmm. But if you have millions of dollars and everybody else is dumping out because they need the money to survive, you're putting your money – Tommy Tuberville is – one of the, if you look, there's a guy that just follows his trades, which is why he'll never run for president. Insider trading in Congress is such a horrible thing. Nancy Pelosi gets flack, but Tuberville does the same thing.
They all do it.
So they're enriching themselves while they're in there.
It's not just them; it's the people that work for them.
Right. But that's
the people on their staff.
But that's what's separating this group from the middle class is done. There is no middle class anymore.
It's down to, I think we're down to like 35% of people who actually are within what's defined as the middle class.
And they're literally within $5,000 of
for comparison, in 1970 or so, it was like 60% of people in the U.S. were in the middle class.
Right. So when you look at those things, you've got people that are career politicians because...
Right, so you were going to name some more names.
Right, sorry. But I eliminated Tuberville. Josh Hawley.
He's not an insider yet, but he might become one.
Here's the one.
Just have to wait and see.
Well, here's the one that I started changing my stance on this a little bit. DeSantis.
He's certainly a savvy politician. I think he's an excellent governor. I think he is actually a somewhat principled person. What I can't really tell is if he's playing the conservative role, or if that's really who he is.
I find that he's much like Trump. so when Trump was a Democrat, I don't think he changed his stance on a lot of things. No. But what I see with DeSantis right now is what's the thing that's going to curry favor to carry me to that next step. And so whether it's, they're on him about banning books. The books they're banning, kids shouldn't be looking at pictures of naked dudes wrestling in there, and right next to it is like the Caterpillar book.
Right.
There's a lot of weird shit that's being allowed to happen in this country that parents don't want that. So he's being attacked on that end. And then what happens is he gets pissed and he's like, do you know what else I can do? I can do this. Like the Reedy Creek thing at Disney. I see him making these moves where it's like he's uber aggressive. And it kind of reminds me almost like the Reagan year Republicans or the Bushes.
But the thing is, I don't think that if you look at Florida's doing well. Right. The state of Florida is doing well. The state of Florida is flourishing under his leadership. So you can't, in some sense, argue with that. However, one of the things that was always, or that is always an issue, is that the people who come into power start overreaching, right? So now you have all the Democrats and some of the Republicans wanting to cut free speech, right? That's been going on since before COVID. The thing that we have to watch with DeSantis to find out is, does he start to approach that line or step over that line where he's now, okay, I've solidified my power base, so now I can start to overreach. I mean that's going to be the telling thing, I think, for him. I don't think that he's an insider in the sense that the Washington power broker elite, that he's part of them. I don't think so. But that's also very enticing, right?
Well, I don't see them wooing him just yet,
right?
Like you've seen them do with other candidates,
right?
Because there's a part where they start grooming you to do that. I don't see that happening yet.
Not so far, but I mean, it's something to keep your eye on. Has he officially declared for the presidency? And see, if I were him, I don't think I would.
Well, there is a rule that if you are going to, I forget what the timing is. I think it could only be like 14 months out or something. So if he said he was going to do it, he would have to remove himself from being the government position, because now he has to be in that role. But I do think here's where I see this happening. After the whole CPAC thing happened with Trump, and they polled that, and they said it's 62% for Trump and 22% for DeSantis. Well, DeSantis wasn't there. Like, he's not giving a speech there.
Right.
So it's recency bias. But I do think that people see that there are really only two choices. If Trump runs again, he's against all this other stuff that's happening in the Biden administration.
Right.
So it's going to come down to those two again.
Well, Nikki Haley announced, right?
Yeah, great. Bobby Jindal should announce again. He did really well.
Right.
So if you look at these people, like, they have a name and then they get stomped out before they even get into the round of 16 or whatever.
Right.
They're the Corpus Christi of the March Madness. Right. Like, you're in.
Right.
Grab yourself a T-shirt and take your fat ass home.
It's interesting that DeSantis was in Iowa a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I think he's exploring this.
So you don't know. I mean, you kind of wonder, is he thinking he's going to do this? Is he not going to do it?
I think he wants to do it.
The question that I have is, who is it that's behind the scenes in his ear? Like, who really wants him to run? Because that would be telltale.
Here's the thing. I think the opposite. Who is in his ear saying, don't do it?
Right.
Because Trump's not going to run again and again and again. You've got one more cycle of this. If Trump doesn't win this time, then you still have time. You're still young enough. I think you have to get, if I was him, I would sit it out. You have 4 more years. Take care of Florida, do all that. And then when Biden will be dead probably tomorrow by the time the show comes. I mean, he can barely walk. And then Trump is gone, right? At that point, name me a Democrat he can run against that hasn't already been shit on by their own party. Like Pete Buttigieg. That guy is not how you go from being a mayor to the transportation secretary. You're an insider. You're a World Economic Forum dude. You're a Davos dude. Mm-hmm. So you're in. But
he's run for president a couple of times.
Yeah, but how could you vote for him and not based on his personal life or anything? That guy has the personality of a couch. And I think everything is so robotic and you're not going to win. So I think it becomes like a Lori Lightfoot when she moved up in Chicago, like, oh, she got a political aspiration. She got 20% of the vote in Chicago. She got booted out. And the people that they vote that are having the runoff are worse than her. Right. And I think in Mayor Pete's case, he's not going back to Indiana to run that shithole. He's going to have to be in a cabinet position or he'll be on K Street as an advisor. He's going to run and run again because you make money while you're running for office. You don't make money while you're in office. Mm-hmm. Well, you're not supposed to.
Oh, I don't know. I think a lot of these guys make their money.
I'm kidding. When you look at Obama and you look at Biden and you look at these other families, the Clintons, how much money have they made, right? While they were in office.
Barely any.
I mean,
the Clintons were broke when they left office, don't you remember?
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember Bill on Nightline talking about those funny-looking light bulbs that are actually worse for the environment. But they don't last as long. But they're green.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody needs green light.
Yeah, well, they don't want any black light in those rooms where Bill's been, you know what I mean? It looks like somebody was firing off some whipped cream. So if you take Biden and Trump out, you would have to look at DeSantis. If he doesn't run, who does run?
Well, Nikki Haley is running. For sure. She's already announced that.
Just say that she has a bumper sticker she printed. She will not win.
We talked about Robert Kennedy. He's running. I think Tulsi's got the gig she wanted. I don't think she's interested.
Would you want to do it? We're almost out of time.
Would I want to be president? I would not.
No,
want to be.
Not even the president. Would you want to go through that?
No.
Every horrible thing in your life, including the time that you used to have like a black goatee, people would be showing that picture.
They'd be showing my goatee.
Yeah, but it's different now. I'm saying
now.
They're going to rip your whole life apart, and half the country's going to hate you, the other part's going to love you.
And they're going to take as many things that you said out of context, and they're not the thing that just is the biggest hypocrisy of all is the fact that these people who are breaking these stories are probably worse than the people about whom the stories are being broken. Right. But the hypocrisy is that something that somebody said or did in their early 20s can haunt them when they're in their 60s. As if in that 40 years, you've not grown, you've not had experiences or learning experiences that cause you to change your, if not your values, your perspective on things. I mean, when you think about the way you thought when you were 20 and the way you think now, everybody goes through a lot of changes, but politics, because of the way we do it, doesn't allow for that. Right. It doesn't allow for people to have grown. It's, if you thought something when you were 20 years old, you obviously still think that.
Right.
It's a stupid. And the fact is that nobody out there who's holding the politicians to this level of scrutiny would stand up to that level of scrutiny. Nobody would. I mean, very few. There may be a few people, but very, very few people can claim to have had consistent thoughts and values throughout their entire life.
There's only one person. Name him.
Jesus?
Close enough. His best friend, Mike Pence.
Oh, Mike Pence. Okay.
That guy can't even have dinner unless his wife is there.
Well, that's okay.
Talk about having your balls in your purse. Does he run?
Mike Pence?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm kidding. Somebody vote for that
somebody thinks you might be thinking about it, because otherwise they wouldn't be having that document thing with them. You know, because of that.
Oh, that's true. We didn't even cover that.
So
Everybody has documents at their house.
Somebody thinks he's running, or they wouldn't be doing the "I don't want you to run," because that's the current "I don't want you to run" thing. Is we get documents with Trump and documents with Biden and documents with Pence. You got documents at your house, you know.
Well, that's why the show's over. We got to run. You've been listening to Objections with Stan Hansen. We'll see you later.
Stan Hansen.